Welcome to Everything is Messy, the podcast. I'm your host, Kellyanne Gorman. I'm someone who loves to create content, products, and services to help others level up in business and in life. I even wrote a book about it, and now I have a store. Everything is Messy is a one-stop shop for women who want it and deserve it all. From personal development to productivity, podcasting and publishing, small business strategies to entrepreneurship, and so much more. Tune in every week to enjoy this one-of-a-kind podcast experience and hear fun, fearless, and focused conversations from myself and my incredible guests. From trending topics to stories of resilience and all things business. And let's not forget about a few of my favorites: mindset, healthy recipes, and organizing tips. These episodes are created to get you to where you want to be right now. The purpose of the show is to motivate you, inspire you, and prove to you that anything is possible if you just put in the work. So grab your favorite notebook and pen, because it's time to get organized and turn those dreams of yours into reality. I'm living proof that manifesting and visualizing and having a never give up attitude work. And now it's my job to help you achieve your goals by doing the same, or just to provide some laughs along the way. I'm so glad you are here. Today's episode starts now. Hello, and welcome back to a brand new episode, you guys. I'm so excited for you to hear from my incredible guest, Elle Russ. Welcome to the show, Elle.
Hey, how are you? Good to be here.
I am good, and I was just recently on your show. Well, we recorded, so I'm so glad to have you on my show and share a lot about your journey. And honestly, it is so crazy to have such a weird, inspiring, motivating, but odd life story that got you to where you are today, and then have somebody understand it. So you and I have done a lot of things and have had a lot of past that has led us to where we are today, which we're grateful for, but was definitely not in the cards. So there's a lot I want to talk to you about today. And not only are you a seasoned podcaster and an entrepreneur, and you're obsessed with the morning routines and manifesting and all of that, just like myself, but we kind of related on a scale of we didn't really have a choice to take the path that we had. So can you explain to the audience what you were doing in corporate America and then what happened to get you to where you are now?
Sure. So in general, I always thought as a kid, like, I want to grow up and make a ton of money, retire young, like, I'm going to go make some fucking money. I don't care what I have to do. And at the time, I really was interested in law, like as a kid. And I thought, lawyers can make a lot of money, right? And it seemed like one of those tracks. So I was like, cool, I'll go be a lawyer. You know what I mean? And planned on that the whole time. In fact, while I was in college, almost like my collegiate resume was geared towards like how good it would look eventually on a law school application and all this kind of stuff. And so I graduated from college, and I get like a dumb salary paying job as like a secretary assistant, kind of thing, because I'm thinking I'll just get a dumb job right now to pay me salary and benefits while I'm waiting for the law schools to accept me. And then I'm going to go off to law school. And a wonderful thing happened. I ended up getting a job as the personal assistant to a guy who owned one of the fastest privately held companies in San Francisco during the tech boom. And so maybe I was the seventh person hired. I think by the time I left, there was 150 employees or something like that. And so I kept getting promoted like every month. It was kind of ridiculous. And so by the time I had only been there a couple years, I'm 22 years old. I'm making six figures, and I'm about to make $250,000 a year with my next promotion. I'm managing like 100 computer consultants throughout California, working for Fortune 500 companies, like a very big job. I had my own office. I'm wearing Armani suits. And I am like, Kelly, I'm like, oh man, I'm fucking set. Fuck law school. I'm making more than a starting attorney right now. I'm going to be retired by the time I'm 30 with like 10 homes. This is going to be great. And so I was really excited about, wow, I got to my goal way sooner than I had thought. I got really lucky. And then, one day I had a friend who I asked to help carry this chair from a store a block from my house. It was not heavy, but it was just kind of bulky and awkward. So I was like, oh, hey, I need to grab this chair and bring it home. And we're walking the chair home, and I literally just, my wrists were so weak, I kept having to put the chair down. And at the time I wasn't like so concerned, but I remember being like, this is weird. And then it was just all bets were off. After that, very quickly, both of my hands and arms became extremely inflamed. I had severe tendonitis in both my hands and arms all the way up to my neck. Got to the point where I couldn't even wipe myself without pain, couldn't speak with my hands. I still can't sleep on my sides. I haven't for years. And all chronic pain 24/7. And here I am, I'm like 22. I just started my life. And also I'm making all this money, I have all this great career prospects. And suddenly I'm completely disabled. I mean, the California court rated me at about a 40% disability, which makes sense. It's your upper extremities. And so for people listening, what job do you know of that you don't have to use your hands for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week? You can only mention a handful. Actor, speaker, broadcaster, translator, maybe, right? Like voiceover actor, right? Like these kind of things. And so this is a hand-based world. And so in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I'm fucked. Like, what am I going to do for the rest of my life now? And so to be hit with that, and thinking maybe it was going to go away at some point or get better, which, by the way, it got better. I live not in chronic pain anymore, but I, still can't do the thing because it's a repetitive strain injury. So it's no different than like the pitcher being out for a season because he's got tendonitis and then he goes back in and it happens again. There you are. So this was like a very scary place to be. And then, so I pursued a life of like, okay, well, I've got to use my voice now. And obviously that worked out based on the fact that we're talking right now.
Yeah.
So that
Same.
Worked out, took some time. And then along that way, too, many years later, I got hit with hypothyroidism. And these two things, I always say, were the worst fucking things that ever happened to me in my life, but they also were the best things that ever fucking happened to me. The gifts that I received from both of them and how both of them linked and helped one another for me to be able to live my dream job. Because see, before I became an attorney, I always wanted to like be an actor, a performer, or like creative. And I always thought that's unrealistic. No one can make money at that. Fuck that, I'll be a lawyer. And then the universe cut the golden handcuffs literally and figuratively off my wrists. And we're like, no, you don't even have a choice but to pursue it. And so it was a really interesting place to be at 22. Lots goes along with any kind of physical health ailment, and same with thyroid. So anyway, both of these things, I wrote a best-selling book based on my second health problem with hypothyroidism, and I am a patient advocate like you are. And then I also am able to help people as well on the subject of shame, or anyone who has that about a disability or anything else. But really that piece of my physical arm disability comes into play in my second book, Confident as Fuck, because I carried such shame and just horrified by this for so long in my life, and the shame was more disabling than the disability. And so that really kind of finally figuring out that last piece was me becoming finally confident as fuck. Like I was confident in all the areas of my life, but some other areas I wasn't because of this thing. So both things gave me incredible empathy for people who are suffering from an unseen illness like hypothyroidism or some other sort of unseen thing. And also you can't see that I have a hand problem, and so that's an interesting place to be too, because people don't believe you.
Yeah. And what I said earlier, like when I just hit record, it's so hard to find somebody. I mean, you can tell somebody your story all day long, but to find somebody that has literally been in the trenches, the same with me. I was supposed to be blind and paralyzed. So the only thing I had left was my voice to make money. So I just hit record and I just figured it all out. Now my entire career is surrounding podcasting and development and writing and producing because I was misdiagnosed. But no one understands, not even the tight circle around you, the trauma, what goes through your head, like your everyday thoughts, your thoughts that you have like every single minute when you go through something so traumatic like that. But then on the flip side that you and I have both also had is, okay, we got to this place because that happened, but now it's like, we've grown so much as a human and our businesses have grown, and that was not our plan. I was in luxury travel for years. I was a pro makeup artist for years. I traveled the world. I thought I was still going to be living my best life in Las Vegas on the strip, like greeting private jets and, creating these experiences. And that all came to a halt. And I was like, now what do I do? And at the end of the day, all we had was our voice. And then it led us to these like beautiful careers that we have now, which is also helping other people by writing content, by filming content, recording amazing shows and bringing on guests. Because I think that I know for a fact that during the pandemic, people really understood and like it really opened their eyes. Like, wow, life is really short and everybody has a story. And I feel like with podcasting, it's the best platform, video as well, but to showcase that. And people don't understand like the tiniest thing that like you and I both would go through on like a random day would never cross somebody's mind, like how difficult it was, you know, just for you to like try to move your hand or for me to like try to get up, you know, like it comes down to like just being grateful and waking up and knowing that like, okay, one, I just woke up. That's a bonus. Two, I can slowly incorporate like a few more things into my everyday, but then sometimes after that, you're exhausted, wiped out, and you're done for the day.
Yeah.
So,
I know what it's, and I know you know this is true. I know what it's like to just can't wait for the day to be over so you can go to bed so you don't have to be in the body you're in.
mm-hmm.
It's a very depressing thing, you know? And that struggle, I would say that the most traumatizing thing about both health situations, well, the first one, the most traumatizing thing was battling an insurance company for 20 years.
That's a long time.
Continually proving my disability, having to always having them try to cheat me and defraud me out of a contract because no one's for their claim. So I have to be like my own lawyer and being intentionally inflicted with emotional distress and all sorts of other things, bad faith, breach of contract. You know, it's they just hoping you're gonna run out of money and you're gonna just like everyone else get exhausted and just go fuck it. And I didn't, and so I prevailed. But that to me was it's ultra traumatizing. And on the second one with hypothyroidism, the ultra traumatizing thing for me was there were no doctors that knew what they were talking about. That's why the best-selling thyroid books are written by patients, including myself. And thank God I finally found a doctor who knows what's up, and he's on my book. But at the end of the day, that was really awful. So being like harassed and like intentionally inflicted emotional stress by the insurance companies for the arm hand thing, and then on the other hand, no one listening to me, no one helping me, and me having to go do it myself. In both scenarios, I kind of had to do it myself. That's really the truth about these situations.
Yeah.
Both of these situations. So whether it's like disability, fighting with insurance companies, or whether it's dealing with doctors and trying to solve your own ailment, I solved my thyroid problem by myself. I actually had to order thyroid hormones on the internet, like black market shit, and do it myself because nobody could do it. So I shouldn't have had to do that.
No.
But you have to take your health in your own hands. And you know, when you've preached, you also have to take the back end of these things into your own hands when it comes to, you can't just rely on an attorney. I used to hire attorneys to help me fight the insurance company for my hand disability, but the thing is that they would make mistakes. And again, this goes down to the thyroid thing too. It's everything. No one gives a shit about you more than you do. And I remember hiring them and being like, I can write better letters than this. Like, they know what the fuck they're doing. So I ended up becoming like my own attorney. And what happened was I ended up calling a few attorneys to have some consultations. And while I was talking to them, one attorney goes, oh my God, if you're ever in Orange County, we would love to meet you. We have never met anyone who has successfully on their own fought and prevailed over all of these years. They were like, we just want to meet you if you want to come in here. And I was like, oh my God, but that really speaks, right, to how much you have to do if you want to help yourself.
And I remember we talked about this when you interviewed me on your show about how I represented myself in all these cases. And then in the middle of the pandemic, I ended up closing it. But I had the top litigating attorneys calling me like, how did you do this?
Right.
I'm sorry. Like, do you think this information is for free? You weren't there when I called you with over 100 other practicing firms to help me. And now you want to know how I just performed a miracle yet again? Like, fuck you.
This is one I heard from a couple attorneys. They weren't aggressive enough. They were almost scared.
I know they were.
Company. And I was like, why are you afraid? Like, they're like, you know, be careful. I'm like, what are are you fucking kidding me? And I literally bullied back my insurance company. Have no fucking shame about it. You should just see the letters I wrote them. And you know what? They shut the fuck up.
We should publish a book just with the letters that we both did.
It's really interesting that all these attorneys are like, well, I don't know, you know, you don't want to upset them. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, and, you know, so what I did, and I'll just tell everyone a couple of times this has happened, and I'll keep doing it if it happens again. But when they try to, like, mess with me, I not only send them, like, 20 pages worth of arguments. I've already sent them many times in the past, the same arguments over and over again, because they would pull the same tricks. So you just
oh yeah, I did the same.
They're going to try them, and so I would just like redate that letter, and then I literally would be like, "Would you like me to do a series of podcasts about your company and what you're pulling? Like, just Google me.
I did
with the wrong claimant. Like, go find someone else who doesn't give a shit, because I'm going to be out and loud about it." And then it's very interesting. Right after that happens, suddenly, like, the settlement department calls.
Yeah. It's so crazy.
So it's just very interesting. So sometimes you don't need an attorney. I'm not saying you shouldn't get one, of course, but I felt confident in myself enough after going through a couple of attorneys and really learning and understanding the law and reading my policy and just going, no, I'm going to fight this in all the ways that I can. And I prevailed. And actually an attorney did tell me at one point before I did this on my own, they're like, you know what? I think you can do it. They're like, I think you can do this by yourself.
And going back to the point where you said, like, excuse my French, but like they're such like pussies. They're like afraid of the medical aspect of it, where with us, we did such a good job on our own. And it's just like entrepreneurship. Like, you have the passion, you have the grit. It's literally like life or death, and you just go hard. And they're just like, it's just another document I have to write. You're not going to fucking win my case this way. Like, that's why it makes so much more sense to go that route if, at the end of the day, like, you need to. But you also have to make sure that you're checking spelling, you're checking clerical errors, because I feel like when it comes to the health aspect, if it's like a divorce and medical, it's two totally different fields. When it comes to your life and your health, I don't feel, and I know this because I've spoken to over 100 attorneys, they don't have it in them to go hard to really get the job done the way that it should be. Like, I've seen cases closed, I've seen settlements, but I feel like they could be a lot more based on the facts of what's going to happen down the road with the rest of their life, because they didn't go hard like they should. Like, they didn't have it in them. They're afraid.
It's almost like no one's going to want to solve the murder of your relative more than you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's just, and essentially, and one of the things that was interesting that I did, and again, this is where maybe that legal desire, I got to kind of be one.
Yeah.
A little bit. Well, I remember one thing that I pulled that I thought was awesome. They tried to, against my policy, but they try to pull anything that they can do. They're hoping you'll just be like, okay. So they tried to be like, well, the Dictionary of Occupational Titles doesn't mention anything about using a keyboard or a computer in your job. Like, of course, it's inherently like assumed, but my job has nothing to do with the, Department of Government's job descriptions. So they sent me this job description, and I was like, well, I can just fight it on logic, but I'm going to take it a step further. I ended up I posed and pretended to be a graduate student doing a survey of like ergonomics on the job. And what I did is I sent the same exact form that the insurance company initially sent to my company to go, what are her physical requirements? She has to use her right and left hand 8 hours a day to determine the disability. And so I used the same questionnaire. But of course, put it on like, not their letterhead or anything, but just made up this form. And then I literally went and sent it to like over 50 recruiters at big recruiting companies in major cities, including the city where the insurance company was based, and like all over the country. And I got them all back, and they were all from people who had the job that I have. And all of them said and checked the things the same way: 8 hours a day, repetitive hand use, 8 hours, and so I was like, here you go. And, they had nothing to say to that. They shut up. So, I went and did my own thing there, and everyone was really happy to oblige to that and sign it. Cause I was like, hey, I'm just doing a study on ergonomics. Like, just wondering like what your physical requirements job is of a recruiter. And they were like, oh, sure. No problem. Filled it out, emailed it back. And then I sent them all the evidence.
It's like reverse engineering the process. There's so many times I had to do that as well, which is really at the end of the day,
you're
like
kind of playing investigator,
yeah,
you're playing detective, you're playing like prosecutor. It's a pain in the ass, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of energy, and it can become a full-time job. And I really understand and empathize with that because I dealt with it for so many years. And it's demoralizing too, because you have the thing and someone's trying to say that you don't, even after 20 years of proving it, or 10 different hand surgeons, or it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that's much longer time than my situation, but I feel like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's so much more that needs to be done patient advocacy side, but also on the legal side. And, you know, and
you got to stand up for yourself. You just have to
be
absolutely aggressive. And because here's the thing. A lot of times when they sense someone's trouble, they're just kind of like, you know, it's not worth it. Mm-hmm. Kind of like with me.
Yeah.
Right? We keep trying, but you know what? She's good. I'm going to just let it go. You know what I mean? And so that's how you prevail.
Exactly.
Just don't let it go.
Now let's kind of pivot to the mental work that has to be done. When you are in the thick of something going on health related with you, I read in an article that you were featured in about how you have to be your biggest cheerleader and how you do have to do the mental work. But what exactly did you do when you were in your darkest times to make sure that, I'm sure this is where all your manifesting came in because it did with me. What are some of the things that you did to help your mind, your body, your spirit to like get you to the next day when you were like in the thick of it, like, how is this my life now? I was just living my best one. And now I'm like, shit. What are some of the things that you would do?
Yeah. So like 20 years ago before hypothyroidism, I had just gotten the hand issue. And at that time there was like, there's no podcast, there's no internet, like there's nothing. Right. So the only thing that was out there that I could find, and I ended up interviewing him later on, and I teared up while I was interviewing him, and I'll probably choke up talking about it. So Dr. Andrew Weil, we all know who he is, right? Mm-hmm. You know, the Santa Claus looking dude. He had, you know, his first like CD that came out like, you know, 8 Weeks to Optimum Health or whatever it was. And there
I remember
was,
that
like, a CD at the time with like guided meditations or like, you know, and it was the first time I felt like hope that maybe, you know, because I obviously had an inflammation issue with my arms. And so, you know, he was talking about fish oil and stuff back then. No one knew what the fuck, you know, and there was no thing as paleo, you know, no one knew anything. But
that word didn't even exist
so
yet.
that was the only alternative thing. Now, I didn't know about, you know, manifestation or intention or anything like that, but that was sort of the first thing of like, somebody out there thinks maybe it's possible I can heal. Mm-hmm. And I told him that was the first glimmer of hope. And then later on, many, many years later, I suffered with hypothyroidism. And the first bout of it, I still hadn't really understood, you know, what intention or anything that. But I did learn it between the first bout and the second bout of hypothyroidism. I had two in 10 years. And on the second bout, that's when I went right to all the stuff I knew, where I was like, nope, guided meditations on healing, you know, like thoughts, like affirmations, staying away from negative stuff, only watching comedy, you know, only watching healing stories of people who've healed, only, you know, speaking with other fellow patients on forums and filling my mind with that stuff because I knew the power of that then. Whereas before, maybe it was an accident all those years prior with the Andrew Weil CD, you know what I mean?
I'm taking something.
Anyway, now I do have, actually, by the way, it's free for everybody. If you go to my website, free stuff tab, or anywhere on Instagram on my link tree, if you connect, I have a free audiobook of guided meditations. And the two guided meditations are, one's on healing and one is on money. And then there's two affirmation tracks and one's on confidence and one's on money. But the guided healing meditation, I don't know, for me, that 20-25 minutes of listening to someone sort of guide me in that way was so helpful. And so I was like, well, I want to make that for other people too. Mm-hmm.
I love that. And all of that will be in the show notes so that everybody can go check it out. Do you ever do sound baths?
Oh, you know, that's such a big thing where I live too. There's so much sound healing and sound healing ceremonies. I have done it before, but it's not something I regularly engage in. Other things that I would used to do, like with my arms, when I could afford it back then, you know, at the time I got tons of massages. I know that's not possible for people. Mm-hmm. But to me, that is like so healing to me in so many ways. Sauna or steam. There were times when I was really sick and stuff and I didn't have the energy or anything to work out with the hypothyroidism. So sometimes all I could do was just like go to the gym and sit in the steam room, you know what I mean? And just like feel like I did something and got a sweat, you know what I mean? And it was just, you got to do what you can do. You know? Sometimes if you can only walk to the mailbox, that's all you can do. Mm-hmm.
I was saying that on a YouTube channel I was interviewed on the other day. It just came out. And if you can wake up and make your bed and make your iced coffee, sometimes those two things were the only things I can handle in one day. I'm good and I'll go right back to bed. For me, sound healing was my go-to. Have you heard of the copper vessel?
No.
She was right by you. Her name's Susie. She just moved a little bit more north, but I don't even know. Oh, I ended up finding her on the Allo app through a client because I was producing a show and she was talking about her. And I'm like, what is a sound bath? And then I just started doing them and I sleep to them. So I have different tracks that are about 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours, and I sleep with them on. So that's like my go-to. But now I am obsessed with the sauna. I literally just joined a new gym just for the sauna. I walk the beach all the time. I run in and out and I go to the sauna. So I was filming a series for TikTok last week. It started like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it was 7 straight days of sweating in the sauna to improve my mental health. And it fucking works. Like, it has improved my mental health. Like, January was so intense for me. I don't know. And a lot of other people felt it too. But for me, I was just like, this is a brand new year. This is like my year, like all the feels in the beginning of January. And then like somehow like mid-January, I was just like depressed again. I'm like, why is this happening? So I'm like, I need to take matters into my own hands yet once again. And so I was like, I need the sauna. I need to sweat in that damn sauna. And I feel incredible. And I think it is week 3. I think this is week 3.
Oh,
what
yeah,
a difference.
I missed it so much. I have to rejoin my gym after everything that's happened. But the sauna, dry sauna is excellent. And sometimes you have to sometimes people get in there and they're like, oh, you know what? I'm not like sweating. Sometimes you have to literally wait 5 to 7 minutes for actually it to start. But you can build up to time in there as well. And if you can get up to 20 minutes, it's really great. I did it for mercury detox, heavy metals. And of course I took some supplements for that as well, but the sauna is incredibly helpful. Yeah.
And what is that sauna? It's definitely a pretty penny, but you sit in it and you zip yourself up. It's all white that a lot of people have at their homes. There's a different sauna.
Many of them. I mean, there's like Sunlight and Sunbeam. I forget. There's also little mini steam room things and stuff on Amazon you get for like $200 and you like zip it up and you put the steam in there.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, like, people have said, oh, well, the EMFs on those things aren't as good, like this versus, like, your regular infrared sauna. But there are single-use, like, home units that are really amazing. I mean, yeah, and if you have the space for it and can afford it, do it.
Yeah, what a difference, the sauna. I don't even know, like, how I lived without it. I'm so obsessed. And today I weighed myself. I'm like, I'm down 10 pounds. And all I'm doing is walking the beach and sweating in the damn sauna. And I'll answer a few emails. I was in the beginning. And then I'm like, this is my silence time. So I leave my phone out. I keep my water bottle so I don't, like, dehydrate myself. But I am obsessed. And it's made such a big difference, especially with my productivity level. I'm huge on that, which is why I love my AM and PM routines. But you just get like that extra boost of energy once you sweat, your endorphins and all of that. And I'm just like completely obsessed. What are some of your favorite routines that you do or your go-tos like in the morning and at night? Because I know you have a lot on your plate and you do a lot of things like me. So what keeps you focused and then what like sets you up for a successful day?
I would say that I like to have a morning. So I never just get up and then like get to life ever. I'm chilling. I take a couple hours. I hang out, have my coffee. Maybe I'll read. Maybe I'll watch a little news. Maybe I'll, but right when I wake up, I'm chilling. I sometimes will put on the YouTube, like fire crackling in a cozy cabin, kind of vibe. And
I love that.
Hang out myself for a few minutes and then I'll get going. And then also I do like to exercise in the earlier part of the day if possible. So I'm very lucky. I live in a beautiful place in Southern California. So
yeah, you do the hikes. You do all those beautiful hikes.
I do hundreds of thousands of photos of mountains on my Instagram. I love it. So for me, nature is extremely important. Not only is it healing, but there are actual benefits to your immune system and everything else by being out in nature and getting out in trees and forests and all of that stuff. So I believe just mental health, and that's my go-to, is literally I would rather just walk out my door and stare at the mountainside for a second. That's the way I can clear my head. So yeah, being in nature. And if you can't be in nature because you live in a city, then watch it on YouTube. There's so many great, like 8 hours of this beach in California, you know what I mean? And again, those sounds are so soothing. So working, I'll have ocean sounds on in the background, and taking time. But I do actually really focus on sleep, and I also do have a lot of downtime. I am not busy 24/7. I will not do that. That's what got me injured in the first place with my arms, because I could type so fast and I could work 1,000,000 miles an hour just as fast as we talk. And so if anything, it's taught me and forced me to like slow down.
So important. I've realized that now, like, especially sitting in silence. Now, let's pivot into podcasting. You have been podcasting for several years, and every now and then you get an interview, and it's just not a good one. And all of my clients ask me this because I'm developing and producing their shows. They're like, oh my God, this interview, it was like pulling teeth. We clearly don't have that problem. But sometimes you get that show and it's just dragging on, or their content or the focus or the energy, like it just wasn't there. So what do you say to that guest who is following up? Like, when's my show going to air? When's this going to happen? Like, do you have any advice for some fellow podcasters? Because I know what I say. What do you say?
I have a lot of thoughts on this. So I've done over like hundreds and hundreds of episodes over 7 years. So I have had some bummers, okay? Mm-hmm. Not on my new show, but, you know, I was hosting someone else's show for a long time, and we had lots of different guests. And anyway, okay, couple things. First of all, twice it has happened where I literally suggested to the person afterwards, I said, you know what? I think we need to re-record this, and I'm sorry to suggest that. I just don't think it's that good. I think it could be better, but I always tell them why and how I think it could be better, because that's stupid to suggest that without having concrete, you know, criticisms, right?
Exactly.
Both times they were like, I agree, thanks, no problem. And I was, okay, so I saved those two. Then there were just some that were boring and whatever. Well, here's what I have to say for podcasters out there. Just kind of expect it, unless you know, you may or may not know. Even someone who may seem exciting and riveting on social media may not be on an interview, and it's your job. It's your job to carry the interview, to fill the spaces, to ask interesting questions, to spice it up. But I got to tell you, I interviewed one guy one time. He didn't get any jokes. They went all over his head.
Oh my God.
He put me to sleep, but also I'm not surprised because I spoke at a thing, and he was there, and he put the fucking audience to sleep before I had to go up and speak, and I had to go wake him up.
Oh, so my God.
Like, but you know what? He's got good information, but, you know, okay, not the best, it's a dud. And sometimes you get a couple of those, but, you know, hopefully you can screen these, you know, screen your guests enough to make sure that it's exciting. But yes, even it happened to me recently where there's a bad connection, and I'm not so happy with the interview. I was thinking I was going to get way more from this guest, and I didn't. But, you know, that's when you, like, call the editor, and you're like, shit, clean this thing up, take out the dead spaces, right? Make it better as best as we can. And so sometimes the editor's really great help with that.
Oh, yeah. I believe that 100%. And it is so hard. But, like, you know, in the beginning, I would never... When I had guests on the beginning of my show, I would never talk to them beforehand. And that's when I learned my lesson. So now I'm always voice messaging, just like how you and I did. I'm like, oh, hi, thank you for coming into my inbox on Instagram. And I always love using my voice so that you can hear, you know, we both drop the F-bomb. We, like, sometimes people don't want to hear a potty mouth. Well, there's a big E on my show for a reason. Like, so if that offends you, maybe this isn't the best show for you. But if somebody's going to pitch me or vice versa, like, I need them to understand, like, this is me. Like, this is what you're going to get. This is my personality. I have a million things on my plate. I enjoy entrepreneurship. Like, what part do you want to hear about most? You know, and sometimes you do have those awful conversations. I should say awful, you know, but...
Actually, I have one on the other side. This is a good one. This is a great example of confidence and standing your ground. There is a person with a well-known podcast. They wanted to have me on, so we're like, get on the Zoom recording or whatever. It's not video or anything, but like right when we get on the phone, I hear them yelling at their assistants and stuff. And
oh my God,
I've gone through so many assistants, and so I'm like already going, boy, this person's not, you know, this is problematic. And then, so we're going to be talking about my thyroid book, and you know, on the title of my book, it says, "Stop feeling fat, foggy, and fatigued at the hands of uninformed doctors. Reclaim your health," right? So I mentioned something about how most endocrinologists are uninformed. This is before we start recording. She goes, "Oh, no, you can't say that. You can't say that." And I'm like yelling at me. And I go, whoa, hold on.
Oh my God.
I have too many endocrinologist friends that listen to this probably like, you cannot say. First of all, it's true.
Yeah.
Okay. So I said to her, I go, I got you. I'm a pro at this. I'll leave it out. I know what you want. And she kept going on. She went like, because I can't, you know, and she just was like in a tizzy about it. Now, I could have just let this go and not and been like, okay, I guess we don't. But I was like, oh no, this bitch is going to fucking record me. We're doing this episode. She's not getting out of this. Right. So, I mean, literally, I kind of had to bully her out of her own bullshit. And I just said, listen, I'm a fucking pro at this. I get what you want. I get it. I'm not going to say anything. Just press record. We're losing time. But I can't. I get it. I got you. Just press record. I mean, like that.
Oh my God.
She did. And then it was really funny. She tried to test me on the podcast and she asked me a question about like reverse T3, whatever. I know all of this stuff. So like, and I answered it and she goes, oh my God, that's exactly right. Like as if she was so surprised. And then afterwards she was so effusive about how great it was. Now, here's the thing. When that happened in the beginning, most people would have been like, right? They're kind of like kind of bullying me.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
You could have chosen to back down and go, oh, fuck it. Okay, well, all right, sorry. And just click. And then that's the lasting impression. And then also you don't get that audience that they have because it was a pretty big show. Right. And, I was like, no. You're not bullying me out of this interview for your bullshit attitude that you have for a dumb thing, for something I said that was true. And so, that's another, that was very strange. That's rarely, where I'm like, yeah. So that was kind of like, left me a bad taste in my mouth about that podcaster. But you know what? It was a great episode. And she was great on the podcast. And it worked out really well. And I'm glad that I fought my way to it.
That's so important. And I always listen to my gut in situations like that. But like the red flag with the attitude and the yelling, like.
Oh, and by the way, this person has that reputation. Like it's gotten disaster, but oh well, she still has an audience. That's fine. Great. If people can hear me and they can be helped by that, fantastic. Then I don't care who's interviewing me, really. Right. But that was a tough one, left a bad taste in my mouth. And from that day on, I was like, her. Yep. Mental note to self. Nope.
Oh my God. I can't even. I have worked, I think I told you a few of these stories, for a number of high profile individuals as their assistant. And I know exactly how that feels being on the other end. But also, as that was my job, that mic would not have even been on yet because I would have been fired within like 10 seconds. It's so great. That whole world is just out of control. Like I could have literally written a book about that. I remember too, when I had those jobs, they were trying to film reality shows with personal assistants. I'm like, I had to sign an NDA from 10 years after I resigned. I could say the name. How is this even going to be allowed in Hollywood? Like, no, there's going to be NDAs everywhere. Like, how are you filming personal assistants in homes of people that you can't see? Like, no one's going to watch.
No one's going to watch it. Yeah.
And now they're all on TikTok. They won't say who they work for or what, but they have these insane followings. And I'm like, this is so crazy. This was like, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. And now they're showcasing that journey on TikTok, which is just like so crazy. And every time I see one of those videos, I have to watch it because I'm like, I'm so grateful that led me here. Among other stories.
People, if they truly are assistants to important people, then they're going to lose their job because someone's going to find out.
Oh, absolutely.
And whether they're saying their name or not, they're ripping on the person. So good job, dumbass.
I know. A lot of them are nannies too.
That's all you.
With the nanny, I feel like I've seen more nannies than personal assistants, and they'll show the back of the child's head. I'm like, that's just enough for like an emblem of a school. I'm like, do you want to be sued?
That's
like,
weird. Yeah.
I don't understand. So as my brand in this show is called Everything is Messy, life is messy. We like to do our own thing every day and just do what feels good. What are some of the things in your world, maybe personally or professionally, that you're working on to improve yourself, to be better?
Well, I have a book that has been completed.
Yes.
With my doctor. And all that is left is really like editing it, that process. So the meat of the stuff is there. So that's kind of a big project. So I'll always be publishing more books. I have more books in the works. But right at this moment, as we're speaking, I am recording and developing automated courses. So I'll have a confidence course and an automated Paleo Thyroid Solution course so that you can get all that stuff there and not have to coach with me one-on-one, for it, and have all of it right there, and go through your own self-guided course. So those are the things I'm working on, and that's expanding business, but also learning about new technology and how to roll things out. So yeah, definitely being challenged in that arena. And then, of course, I was podcasting for 7 years for Mark Sisson and his podcast, The Primal Blueprint. And then I created my own show this September called the Elle Russ Show. And so, we're about 24 episodes in. You'll be one of them. And so that's a lot of fun, too. And that was, new project, new challenge that was executed. And that's been great.
I am just so grateful for your time, that you took a little bit out of your day to talk to me. I really appreciate it, but also for taking what was a negative experience at one point in your life and turning it into a positive one to impact and help more patients and more business owners, entrepreneurs. I'm losing my voice. I don't know why. And just overall humans, because there's so many people that have gone through trauma and health-related issues, and they don't come out like we do, and they don't create a positive change that will honestly help others. You didn't have to do this. You didn't have to choose to, I want to take what just happened to me and turn it into a book and impact more and just bring in more positivity into the world, but help other people at the same time. So I just wanted to thank you for that, because there's not a lot of people that think that way and then actually continue to do it in their career. And I think that's really important to showcase on you right now, because you didn't have to do that. And I just think it's amazing, all the work that you're doing and everything that you continuously do. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's, it's so much fun. And it's, I hope other people get to turn their the best gifts in life come wrapped in shit. Just remember that.
I know. And I feel like once you get to the point where both of us have, where you can fucking laugh about it, you're good. Like, let's help more.
There's a lot of humor along the way. You're like, oh, that was a good one.
I know. Oh my God.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And you guys, to check out Elle, everything will be in the show notes, everything she has coming out. Go read her latest posts. Go follow her on Instagram, and make sure you check out her new courses. Thanks again, Elle.
Thanks.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Everything is Messy, the podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard today, I would love to know. Just leave me a review on the app or website you're listening on. To learn more about myself, join the community, read my book, or shop the collection, visit everythingismessy.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up to receive my weekly newsletter so you get all my announcements first. For all the behind the scenes and day-to-day content, follow along on Instagram at Kellyanne Gorman Official and Everything is Messy Collection. Links are in the show notes. If you have a product, brand, story, or service you would like to share, send me a message on everythingismessy.com today. As always, thanks for listening, sharing, and reviewing. It truly means the world to me. Wishing you a happy, healthy, positive, and productive day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Everything is Messy is produced and syndicated under A Million Dreams Publishing. For more information on how you can launch your own book, podcast, or digital series, visit amilliondreamspublishing.com.